Hampton, and I'll make the American dream come true for you. Call me at 812-LOAN.
All right, we are back on Morning Line on this Thursday. Nick Beres here along with James Blumstein. He's a law professor at Vanderbilt University, follows the political scene, of course, very closely. He's been around and has seen a lot. And we're taking your calls this morning on the presidential race, presidential politics, the names coming into play. Perhaps also I'd like to hear what you would like to hear on some of the platforms for these candidates. What do you think the key issues are? And we'll get to that with the professor here. But let's take some calls that waited through the break. I promise. Let's start things off with Cindy. Cindy, good morning.
Good morning, Nick.
Hi, Cindy. Go ahead.
Yes, I had a couple of questions for him.
Sure.
One was about his opinion about the financial campaigning. One, it's bad enough that the United States, our corporations, are buying our elections because they can donate the most money. But I'm very appalled that other countries are donating a lot of money and they're buying out my president. I don't like that at all. So anyone that's taken all this foreign money, I've done deleted you from a vote. That's it. You're done. Because I've had it. If I can't trust you for the United States, that you can get bought out by someone else, I don't need you, period. And I would also like to know his take on Donald Trump. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. Good questions. All right.
Yeah.
The campaign finance stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, first on the foreign issue, I think that is the law, that foreign interests cannot contribute to candidates to affect American elections. It may be that the caller is referring to the Clinton Foundation, which is not an election foundation, receiving foreign donations. Mm-hmm. And there is a concern that if you ask a foreign person for a donation for your foundation, that there will be some deference that is kind of implicit, at least access would be implicit. I think that is a concern. I don't think it's illegal at this point, but it is a concern for foreign investment in the United States campaign. But it is illegal, so there is no way, at least legally, that can happen. And people went to jail during the Bill Clinton years for violating those rules.
Now, what about the domestic contributions from corporations?
Yeah.
The Supreme Court's ruled on this time and again.
Yeah,
when we talk about
there's a lot of misunderstanding of the so-called Citizens United case. Yeah. That didn't have anything to do with donations. It had to do with what are called independent expenditures, so that corporations in the past could mount campaigns on issues. And so you see these ads say, call Senator X and tell him or her to support such and such a bill on an issue. What Citizens United said was that corporations could actually also spend independently, not coordinated with the campaigns, on candidates, so that they could say, don't vote for candidate X or do vote for candidate Y. The corporation can do that. That's part of their free speech interest. And the cases had been somewhat mixed. There had been an earlier case that had said that was not proper, that corporations had to set up special structures in order to do that. But there had been also earlier cases in which corporations were allowed very expressly to weigh in on a referendum, say, for example, should Massachusetts have an income tax or not? And banks wanted to say that would be bad for business in Massachusetts, and the Supreme Court upheld their First Amendment right to do that. So the only extra piece in Citizens United is that this free speech right that had been recognized as early as 1977 or 78 in the Bellotti case, First National Bank of Boston against Bellotti, that would apply to not this charade of saying, call Senator X and tell him or her that we support a position. You can say, and we think Senator X is great, and that's what Citizens United.
But giving to a candidate you support financial contributions is an act of free speech?
Yes, the Supreme Court's held that. It's been that way for 40 years, since 1976, and that campaign finance contributions are a way of expression. And the fact that corporations have rights, just think about a newspaper. A newspaper is a corporation. Are they not allowed to endorse a candidate? They have for years. So I mean, I think that the Citizens United case, did make some changes. I think they were modest changes, but why should newspapers be privileged compared to any other corporation when they speak and they make recommendations or they make endorsements?
Donald Trump. Is he going to play a role, you think?
I have no thought about really.
He's not getting your vote?
I think Donald Trump
right
is great. He's kind of a political fan dancer that he likes to titillate the audience.
Yeah.
That
he likes the attention.
The attention. I mean, he has some political views. He has strongly expressed those views. He's not what I would call a diplomat, but sometimes straight shooting and straight talk appeal to folks at different times. If he's serious, if he starts giving up various other things, and he really is going to be a serious player, then I think he would have to be taken seriously. He has a lot of name recognition. I don't see him realistically as being a nominee, however.
Let's take another phone call. We'll go to Joe. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Nick.
Hey, Joe.
Just a couple of questions.
Sure.
Of all the Republicans candidates that's announced, I guess it's half a dozen or so, which one does he think is the front runner? And he's spoken very well of the uphill battle that Hillary Clinton would be facing and some of the stuff that's happened in her career. Does he see any of the Republicans having any uphill battles in their nominations?
All right. Yeah, we can get to the Republicans now.
Yeah, I think Hillary Clinton's uphill issues relate not to her, but relate to the fact that her party has been in office with President Obama for 8 years, and it's unusual historically since the post-World War II for a person of the party of a sitting president for 2 terms to be elected. George H.W. Bush is the only one who was, and President Reagan was very popular despite the Iran-Contra. At the end, he's an iconic figure, and we saw when he died how people just have this very warm and fuzzy relationship with President Reagan. And so President Reagan is the one who really won the election for President George H.W. Bush. And my friend from high school, Ken Duberstein, who was his chief of staff, is widely credited with persuading President Reagan to campaign actively in the last 6 weeks or so of the election, and he turned the tide. You may remember that President Bush was behind Governor Dukakis, and then Reagan pulled out the stops and went to bat for Bush, and I think he is really responsible for the election of President H.W. Bush. Are there uphill battles on the Republican side? Absolutely, they surely are. I think Senator Cruz is, a straight talker and a straight shooter. He's not, as I said about Donald Trump, he's not a diplomat. He is willing to, if you read The Godfather, go to the mattresses on matters of importance, and he has not been able to persuade people of his own party that they should take the kind of measures that he thinks are appropriate, bringing the government to a halt and so forth. And so I think in some cases those tactics are justified, but you need to have kind of a game plan. I think he's engaged in highly symbolic politics, and that's gotten him recognized as a first-term senator. But I think that will be thrown up at him all the time.
Sure.
And so I think that's certainly an issue that Senator Cruz would have. Senator Rand Paul, I think was faced with his foreign policy objectives and goals on the very first day that he announced. Some conservatives, including members of his own party in the Senate, thought that he was too much of an isolationist. And I think that is a real concern with Senator Paul. And I think foreign policy is likely to have more attention now. It's pretty hard not to be concerned about the negotiations with Iran, about people beheading other people, especially those of Christian faith, or at least not the faith of those particular Islamic radicals who are taking these measures, and they're killing members of their own faith, different traditions within their faith. They're taking other faiths, and that's just it's hard to see that as part of the 21st century. And I think our country has been rather timid in dealing with those issues, and so I think foreign policy will be a big issue, and I think that will be to Senator Paul's disadvantage.
World becoming a smaller and smaller place. Listen, we need to take a break on that note. When we come back, more of your phone calls. We'll talk about some of the other candidates, and again, maybe what some of the key issues will be on the platforms, and again, the economy and all of that as well. We'll be back with more right after this. Stay with us.